Hey everyone, and welcome to SkillCapped. I'm TheKingLive, and today we're going to be taking a look at how Valorant recently changed their flashes, and it allows you to do some really crazy things because of this. There might be a chance that most players have already noticed this change, but aren't actually utilizing it to its full effect just because of human nature. Generally, it takes players time to adapt to the new meta, and just because something gets changed doesn't mean players will start using it correctly immediately. But I've spent a bit of time experimenting myself and watching some of other top tier players utilize this trick, and it's actually crazy how strong it can be. So if you're intrigued and want to learn how to bring your game to the next level, stick with us. But before we get into it, let's introduce our question of the day, which is, how do you prepare to play Valorant? I'm wondering if any of you have routines before you play the game, or if you just hop straight on. Games like Valorant are so interesting in that it feels like a lot of players who get into Valorant get really into Valorant. They develop routines, they aim train, they constantly listen in on how to get better. Either that or they just queue for 12 hours a day, sleep and repeat. I've definitely been part of both of these groups. Anyway though, let's get into the video. So for us first to talk about the flash changes, we need to talk about how the old flash used to function. You see, previously, one of the problems with Valorant that many players complained about is that flashes were near impossible to turn away from. And not even that they happened too quickly to react to, but rather if you turned away from a breach, you would still get flashed for nearly 1 second, or at least it felt that long. This meant that if the flash was even in line of sight of the character, you would still tank a partial flash. So because of this, when you were throwing a flash, you also had to make sure that the flash was not anywhere on your screen as well. Because even if you were to throw a flash behind you, it would still blind you a decent amount. This started to lead to some clever lineups from players. I know from watching a bit of Red playing Yoru, he had a bunch of Yoru lineups for places that you could flash that would be on their screen but not on his. And this was pretty clever, but you sort of had to be in a position where they were usable, which is not always the situation. Another complication with the old flashes is that if your teammates were already ahead of you, there wasn't really any way that you could use your utility anymore. Because if I'm playing Breach and my teammates push in, even if I flash behind them on the wall, they're still going to get partialed by this flash pretty hard, and that's not something that they're going to love. So at times, this sort of made it so if you're a flash agent, you couldn't really use your utility due to a lack of communication with your team. And for the record, I don't believe that you should be able to throw flashes wherever you want without being punished for it, and that's not what I'm saying. You should have to communicate with your team, and you should be punished for playing carelessly. However, I do believe that the new flash changes are a good step in the right direction of making flashes require just a bit more skill to use. Because after the new flash changes, the way that they work is that if you look away from a flash, you don't really get flashed at all. It will be a minimal effect at most, meaning that if you throw an obvious flash, players are going to turn away from it. So it's going to require players to throw better flashes so that they can actually make sure that they land, rather than just knowing that players are going to be partialed regardless of if they turn away from it or not. But because if you turn away from the flashes, they won't hit you nearly as hard, this means that you'll be a little bit less scared about throwing a flash in positions behind your teammates to assist them in gunfights, because you're not going to full blind your ally as they're going for this gunfight. I've been using this a lot on KAYO, basically just chucking my flashes into the air behind my teammates to assist them, and it's proven pretty effective. The thing to keep in mind with these changes though is that they actually have two massive effects, and by understanding both of these things, we can come up with a new mechanic to help us win more gunfights. The first thing we need to understand with the changes is that it makes it easier for you to dodge enemy flashes, because if you look away from them, it won't blind you as badly. However, the other perspective is it makes it harder for you to blind yourself, because if you look away from the flashes, it won't blind you as badly. Meaning that the new tactic you may have seen in your games is players will take their flashes on agents like KAYO, Yoru, Skye, and Phoenix, and they will literally throw these flashes behind them as they peek. This makes it so at the very least, the enemy will be looking away from where you're peeking them, and you'll be able to capitalize on it. And if they're not looking away from you, they will get full flashed because they'll be staring directly at a flash, while since the flash is behind you, it will only give you a slight flash. This works incredibly well on Skye, especially right now, because of her recent changes to activate her flash without pulling out her gun. You can basically just send her bird into the air and then peek targets and pick up free kills. And this is where I'd like to encourage players to get more creative with their flashes, because there are literally so many places that you can throw really difficult to dodge flashes right now in the game, and players just don't utilize them. Many players throw the same common flashes rather than thinking, how could I make this better? And it results in flashes that are just not that good. And as we talked about earlier, since they made flashes easier to dodge, if you're throwing predictable flashes, it's going to make it a lot more difficult for you to land some of these kills. Here are some flashes I've been throwing on KAYO that have been landing me a ton of kills. Notice how high you can throw the flashbangs as both KAYO, Skye, and even Yoru and still get a ton of value out of them. Players are not using their flashes to their full potential right now, and I really encourage you to, next time you're in a situation where you have time, try to look around at positions that you can use your utility to get the most value out of them. Even on Breach, you can still find some really awesome places to flash that will catch enemies off guard. I can't tell you how many times I catch myself while waiting during post plants, just looking around as KAYO for things I can flash off of. And because of this new flash change, a ton of new flash locations just opened up, so be sure to take advantage of them. In the background, you'll see a ton of clips of different ways that you can use the flash tactic on different agents. Remember, when throwing a flash, the checklist you normally want to follow is make it high, make it either behind your teammates or not in their sights, and make it unexpected. Because the partial flash from behind you is so minuscule right now, you really don't need to worry about flashing yourself much when throwing these flashes, and it sort of creates these cool mind games in some regard as well. Because if you're playing against good players who are good enough to shoot you before the flash goes off, it sort of starts to raise the question of, do I risk them peeking me with this flash and look away so I don't get blinded, or do I risk being blinded and hold the flash in case they peek me with the flash so I could possibly get the kill onto them? Because don't get me wrong, there are going to be times when you try to peek with your flash like this and the enemy kills you before the flash goes off. But if performed right, this tactic can be incredibly strong, and especially at lower ranks, I definitely see how players can be able to steamroll with this. I think one big thing that goes unnoticed in terms of flashes though is the space above a player. And this is actually a really interesting thing about the way the art is designed for the game as well. If you don't know, the way the art design for the maps is structured, it's intended to make the playing field or the ground level of the maps pretty clean. They specifically made it so there's not a lot of textures on the walls at player height because they don't want it to interfere with being able to pick out enemies. And this is an important competitive decision. They decided basically the art wasn't as important as gameplay here, so they decided to make it as clean as possible. However, if you've never noticed this before, it might be because players just don't really have a tendency to look up all that much. And if you look up, you'll start to realize there are a lot of really useful things included on all maps that you can take advantage of. A small example of this are the windows in the Skye on Breeze. Did you know that you can find lineups through these windows to actually throw utility across the map to help your teammates? These windows aren't a coincidence. This was an intentional design decision that affects the gameplay. Similarly, since this is a flash video, you ever notice things in the sky that you can flash off of? Or not even the sky, this is something I've noticed as Breach a lot. Most Breach mains, when faced with a doorway, they will either flash to the left or the right of the doorway. But have you ever considered flashing the top of the doorway? In many situations, this can actually be a lot better. You get your flash higher so it hits more, it will be more centralized so it won't get blocked by any corners. The same thing sometimes works with flashing the floor. So anyway, I'll just leave you with this last flash tip for the video. Try looking up. You'll be surprised what you find that is helpful. Anyway though, if I opened your eyes to potentially some new flashes that you could throw and you wanted more of this type of content, we do have more stuff like this available on SkillCapped.com, as well as we offer a rank improvement guarantee, so if you don't feel like you've seen any growth, it's literally no risk. As always, link in the description below. If you want all of this and more, be sure to check out SkillCapped.com. This was just a quick video to show off a new mechanic. I never really saw people throwing flashes just behind themselves like this before, but it's more viable than ever right now, and I highly suggest you trying it out in your games, and you can become an absolute menace with this tactic as well. Like I said, just due to how flashes are thrown right now, it's a lot easier done with Skye, Yoru, Phoenix, and KAYO, but you can still maybe utilize this on Breach as well. I'm actually a massive fan of these changes if it wasn't clear. I just love how there's more counterplay in my games with the flashes as well, rather than before where you would basically just be throwing the same flashes every time. I honestly feel like I blinded myself less this patch than I have in the past too, so it's nice that I'm not just full blinding myself every single time I try to make an aggressive play anymore. Flashes really felt far too strong before, but at least now they take a little bit more skill, so that's nice. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel down below. It really does help us out, and as always, I'm TheKingLive, and we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.